everyone. Greetings all. Welcome to another episode of 100 Words or Less, the podcast. I am your ever humbled host, Ray Harkins. I'm a little keyed down today because I'm tired. I don't know if it's just a matter of me getting older, but I have to make note of this. Today, the day that you're listening to this, is my birthday. I turned 34 years old. I'm old. I'm getting to that mid-30 range. And man, I'm practically dead in the independent music scene. So yeah, thank you. Happy birthday. I appreciate the well wishes and anything you decide to send my way. Yeah, I'm just tired. And I don't know exactly why it is. Maybe it's just because maybe I'm tired at looking forward to all the traveling I'm doing in October, going to New York City, going to Philly, going to someplace else I'm totally forgetting right now. Oh, Seattle. That's also a place I'm going to. I'm looking forward to it all because it'll be fun to connect with friends, but I'm just tired. But more on that in a minute. Let's talk some guests. Let's talk some business. The person who you have come to listen to this week is the lead vocalist of a band called Architects from the UK, not to be confused with an Architects from Kansas City, Missouri, but Architects from the UK, Sam Carter. Sam Carter is one of my favorite people. I know that's like total hyperbole. Hold on. Let's get some business. Then we'll talk about Sam. We'll talk about some stuff. So a lot of you, and when I say a lot of you, a healthy amount, I don't know, 20 or 30 people have been writing into me recently. We've been trading emails back and forth, and I just love to get that feedback. Thank you so much for corresponding with the show. It's awesome. Like, that's why I do this, to connect with people, to share experiences, and it's great. Like, I mean, it blew my mind because at Riot Fest, a few weeks ago, I was hanging out at the No Sleep Records table. Nice little plug there, right? And a person came up to me and was like, "Hey, are you Ray? Dude, we were listening to your podcast on the way up here to the show." And like, it was so awesome to have that real life connection of people who enjoyed the show. And it was, I don't know, I'm totally forgetting his name, and it's irrelevant because I could care less if he remembered my name, but it was such a rad connection. And to just discuss the stuff that, they found meaningful in the podcast, it was just so awesome for me. So thank you so much for this recent outpouring of support. So visit our media partner, propertyofzach.com. Visit the show's website, 100wordspodcast.com. If you'd like to correspond, an email, little link is on the right side of the page. And I also urge you to go sign up for our email newsletter. Now I'm sending it out to about, 500-600 people. It's awesome. But basically once a week, I will send something out, usually on every Monday, basically recapping the show, talking about some behind the scenes stuff. I just find it's more fun to write at length about this stuff than be reserved to 140 characters on Twitter or something like that. So anyways, do that. I would really appreciate to open up a dialogue with you on that medium as well. And speaking of cool stuff that's been happening, donations. You guys are awesome. I always feel weird just being like, "Oh, pay money for this thing. It's free," because everybody does it. Everybody who's doing something on their own and giving away stuff for free is begging for your money. And that's from the smallest of podcasts to the largest of media empires are begging for money. And I don't want to seem like I am just kind of falling in line with everybody else, because realistically, I didn't start this thing to make money. I just did this because it was a fun thing for me to do. And it's now expanded to the point where, okay, I put a lot of time and effort into this. I would like to continue to put more time and effort into this. That's the trade-off, basically. If you continue to donate, I will be able to do more fun stuff. Like, I want to be able to fly out to a city and just be like, "Yo, let's do these interviews today with these 3 cool people." And I will get the face-to-face interaction that is so absolutely crucial to the interviews, I have a limited amount of time, so sometimes chatting with the person over Skype is just straight up easier. Like this interview with Sam, that's over Skype because he's in the UK. There's no way I could spend $1,200 to fly over. Or if he's in the States, he's usually on tour, and it's really tough sometimes to get a person for an hour. But anyways, I digress. Donations. Roman R. in Ireland and Kimmo L. from Finland. I am literally pointing to you. Thank you so much for giving money. It's so awesome, and I really appreciate that. United States, step up. The donations I've received recently have all been from international folk. What is it? Why do the United States people not find this of value? I don't think so, because a lot of you downloaded from here. So United States people, step it up. We got to, we're number one and all that other patriotic stuff we're supposed to say. So anyways, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for the donations. And I posted a bonus episode, about 2 weeks or so ago. And check it out, because a lot of people were really into that episode. Like, I got a lot of feedback, And I'm getting emails now for my producer, Tom Richfield. It's awesome. I'm forwarding them along to you, Tom. There you go. Yeah, it was a nice little behind the scenes look and kind of a greatest hits recap of funny stories about the show and just other cool moments. So yeah, duck into that. Basically once a month, I'm going to try to put out some sort of bonus piece of content for you. So there you go. Keep your eyes peeled. Enough business, enough pouring out of gratitude. Sam Carter. You can probably go back to episode, 18, 19, something like that. I interviewed the brothers from Architects, play guitar and drums respectively, Dan and Tom. And so this is a rare occurrence where I have multiple people from a band on the show. But basically, I want to have like almost every single member of Architects on this podcast because I enjoy them as a musical unit. I enjoy them as people so damn much. And so the last time Architects was in town, hung out with the guys, and Sam was like, let's do that podcast. I'm like, you know what? That would be a great idea. So we connected over Skype. It was like a few days before this crazy summer festivals they were playing. So it's like, he didn't need to spend this time with me, but that's the sort of connection that I just love to have with, friends that are creative, where they're just like, dude, I don't give a shit. Like, this will be a nice, fun thing to do. And it's exactly what it was. Architects, for those of you that are in the know, they are a modern metalcore-ish band from the UK on Epitaph Records here in the States, and I think worldwide as well. But just a hardworking band, has put the time and effort into creating something that they ultimately truly believe in, and it's amazing. So I could care less if you like the band. You will listen to this interview with Sam and hopefully be more endeared to them and maybe even check them out. I'm actually getting lightheaded. That's how much I'm talking. Maybe I should breathe. Here's my conversation with Sam. I will talk to you after. Personal entry point to you and kind of,
cool.
The band, everything like that. So but more particularly you, because that's why I'm here. I care about you, not the band.
You picked your favorite. You had Tom and Dan before me, so
and that,
saving the best for last.
I think you are only the second band to have two, like more than one member. I've done Two Dudes in Law Dispute, and then you are you're breaking molds all over the place, my friend.
Well, that is a real pleasure. Thank you, Ray.
It's my pleasure. But I mean, obviously the first time we met is when I went over there to travel with you guys to, was it Ghost Fest? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, that was it. Ghost Fest. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're better in mind. Obviously, I know Ghost Fest, but it just all come flooding back that you came with us to Ghost Fest.
I had already, developed a relationship with your old manager, Leander, and it was, we immediately broed out and was like, okay, we come from the same cloth. But then meeting all you guys, it's so weird. And I know that you experience this as well. When you meet certain bands and certain people that you just like, as you would say in the UK, you just get along with them.
Yeah. You just click.
And it's so strange because it happens within like 5 minutes.
Yeah, within 5 minutes, when you meet somebody, whether you can be that person that goes up to them and is like, oh, do you want to come and find this place to get food with me? Or, do you want to come and hang out? Those times where you can meet someone and you know that you're not going to struggle for conversation or feel awkward. Because that sometimes happens when you meet people for the first time. Yeah. But that didn't happen with us.
No. And I just immediately, I, for lack of a better term, fell in love with each and every member of the band. And it was like, I don't know, it's still to this day, like when I anytime anybody speaks about you guys, I'm just always like, they're not like any other band. Like, and honestly, in the respect of just like how you guys are as people and how you come together as a cohesive unit, to me, it's strange because you guys like get along, brothers, like you hate each other, yet you love each other.
Yeah.
And you've been able to keep this thing rolling for as long as you have during the most volatile times in people's lives, which is like teenagers. I don't know. I mean, is it just weird for you to reflect that like, hey, I guess we're still like here? Is that like successful?
It's what's really strange is obviously we grew up playing music together, and I think we spent most of our kind of, I wouldn't say childhood, but like when you grow up, you kind of grow into being men, I guess. we spent that time sort of on tour, we spent that time living in each other's pockets. So essentially we have become a family kind of. So, when people need their space, and when people want to hang out, and what baffles me is just the longevity of the band. I've seen so many bands, in our career come and go and release records and do well and get front covers and win awards and then split up. And, I think the thing that boils down to is we were the four of us now, but at the time it was five. I mean, there's technically five with Adam, who's playing guitar for us now, but I think we just love playing music. And I think around the time of us starting, it was really rare for that, because there was just a lot of bands doing it for the wrong reasons, and you still see bands doing it for the wrong reasons. But for us, it's never, ever been about making any money or getting any sort of personal gain out of it. It's just been like, I don't want to have a normal job. I want to go on tour with my friends and go to crazy places that people shouldn't play shows in, and just enjoy it. We don't take anything for granted. And I think there are other bands doing it now, but for the amount of time we've been doing it, and we still love it. Everything's still so exciting for us. And you see so many bands that are so miserable all the time, and it's so crazy because you want to just go up and slap them and just be like, you don't know how lucky you are. You're 18 and in another country, like. We still get a buzz. Like, we're going to Australia, and it's like our fifth time going to Australia on Monday, and it's all we can talk about. Like, we're just really happy, and we're now really happy that we have started doing a lot better since Lost Forever came out, and nothing's changed. It's not like we've started doing better and we're like, oh, cool, we're like playing bigger shows now. It's like we're playing bigger shows and our jaws are on the floor. We're like, how has this happened? Right. In 10 years we've been trying, and now it's like, what the hell? Like, we just went into the studio and actually wrote a record that we wanted to play, and it's really worked out.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know it's such a hacky question, because I know everybody would be, what's the secret to staying in a band? And it's like I wanted to highlight it because it is such a weird thing. To be as long as you guys are. And like you said, I think the key point there is the fact that you look at what you're doing as like a step-by-step process, and that you're stoked on each step. Yeah,
I think the key thing is always taking a step back. And I think at the start of it, we were like just so in it that we didn't take the time to kind of take a step out and realize how fortunate we were to be doing what we do. And now it's like, every day we'll play a show and come off stage and be like, wow, what the hell is happening? And that's been going on for like the last year, 2 years, where every day we come off stage and we're like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, this is amazing. The vibe is so strong. Like, the nerves are gone, and we're confident, but at the same time we're surprised, and it's just such an amazing feeling. I really wish everyone could kind of feel how we feel. And I know it's, I think the fact that we are so grounded and we are aware of the tragedies that are going on in the world at the moment is why we realize how fortunate we really are. It's kind of, once you know more about the world, you kind of appreciate really how fortunate you are to not only not be in a war zone and fighting for your life every day, or having these horrible tragedies happen to people. We're living our dreams. We're literally doing what we wanted to do when we were 13 years old, and I don't know how many people can say that. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you as a person, you were you always struck me, like, when we interact and hang out, you always are, you're just always ready to have fun. You're always, again, I always like to use the UK terminology. You're a very chipper gent.
Yeah.
Has that always been, like, you strike me as a person who's always kind of been that way, where you're like, you're the guy that's like, hey, like, I'm ready to, have fun. Like, sure, I'll play, sports with you, or sure, I'll do this thing with you. Have you always kind of been that dude to be like the energizer, as it were?
I think so. At school, I was kind of one of those kids that sort of like knew everyone. And I think the only reason I knew everyone was because I made everyone laugh at me. Right. It wasn't like I was a cool kid. It was like, if I'd see someone coming towards me, I'd be like, oh, I'm an idiot. And everyone would be like, yeah, you are. You're funny. And then they'd go. It would be like, I wanted to be the butt of everyone's joke, but in a way where it was kind of, I didn't take myself too seriously. And just enjoyed, I'm very proactive, especially when I was a kid. I was the first one that wanted to hang out and wanted to stay out the latest and, just do stupid stuff. But for a while, I mean, for a while, I wasn't, you know, during when we did the Here and Now and touring after that, we all got a bit down for a while. And I did kind of fall into a little bit of a slump where I kind of maybe was drinking a little bit too much and kind of was kind of the fat guy that wasn't going to get off the bus. And, you know, it's nice to have that back. I do have it back now because since we've been vegan, we've all been looking after ourselves a lot more. And, you know, but I guess I have always been that kind of one that.
Yeah, because I think it's interesting because especially within the context of independent music, the context is okay. Usually, you know, you're sad and depressed in your room listening to records. Like, of course, I'm generalizing things. That's why I personally identify with you because I'm very similar to you in that regard. And so, and I don't know if you found this, but it's like sometimes people kind of look at you like you have two heads, where it's like, dude, chill out. You're a 10. Yeah. I need you at about a 7. Like,
yeah. Honestly, my girlfriend feels exactly the same way as what you just described, because she'll go to work, and if I've not been at work, I'll be sat by the door like a puppy. You know, she'll open the door and be exhausted, and I'll just be like, play me. Let's do this, let's do that. You know, like I must have ADHD somewhere in me, but no one's diagnosed it, so I'll just carry on being crazy.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I have a sister, yeah,
okay.
And we spent quite a lot of time as kids, you know.
Yeah.
Being it's and annoying our parents. So
describe to me your family life. How was your, you know, what'd your mom and dad do for a living, and how did you, how were you raised?
Mum and dad are still together. Have one sister. We grew up in the south coast of England, but my mum is from Manchester. My dad is from London, Highbury area. And grew up in a pretty normal house, really. My dad was a policeman, which some people find quite shocking, considering my view on things.
Sure.
But I kind of grew up with this kind of revolt in me, I think. You know, I was very fortunate. I was raised very fortunately. You know, it's not like I came from a rough background, and we weren't well off by any means, but we had to work for what we wanted as kids, and I think we were raised properly there. You know, we weren't given handouts and stuff, and you know, my first drum kit I saved for a year on my paper round to kind of get the money to get it together, and very happy. And then I hit about 13 and became an absolute nightmare for my parents for a good up till now.
Well, I'll get back to that in a minute. But was your dad, like, you know, on the beat? Was he a detective? Like, what role was he filling?
Mainly for my growing, when I was old enough to know, he was on the beat for a little bit, but then he became we had police dogs in our house. He worked at the airport, like he checked people's bags at the airport.
Oh, sure.
In the end, so one of the few good ones in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's easy, like you were joking to and alluding to earlier, it's easy to, you know, paint policemen with a very, you know, negative brush for many obvious reasons. But it's like, usually it's not the actual, police person. It's the structure in which they're contained. And so it's like, it's good for you to have the feelings you do now, but then obviously be able to contrast that in a realistic perspective, because otherwise it's like, oh, fuck the police. And it's like, well, like, I get that, but then there are good people that do that work. You know that? Yeah.
I always say it's ACAB, other than my dad. That's what I say. That's why I can never say it, because I'm like, well, I mean, I really back it, but I know my dad isn't one. Yeah. So I'm not going to say it. And also, I think police in America are completely different humans to police in England, from what I see and have encountered anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, that's another story.
Yeah. No, that's on Politic Talk with Sam Carter. And so then, like you were joking about, you know, once you hit kind of 12 or 13, what sort of nightmare were you? Were you actually getting in trouble with the law, or were you just completely disobedient to your parents? Where were you landing on that spectrum?
I was just completely disobedient.
Okay.
I took the mick a bit, but, you know, I wasn't that bad, but I did go through a phase where I didn't care about anything. I was like, I'm going to be in a band. No one's going to stop me. No, I'm not going to revise for school. No, I'm not going to do anything. I've got band practice. Leave me alone. And it worked out. Thank God. Thank God it worked out, because I have the pleasure of turning around and going, see, I told you I was going to do it. Whereas if it didn't work out, they'd be like, now we're trying to help you out and you can't get a job, you know, and that does happen. So that's why I'm very, very happy for how it's all worked out.
And so when did independent music start to infiltrate your life? Was that, because I mean, you said like 12 or 13, like that's pretty early.
Yeah. Well, I started playing drums when I was, you know, must have been just 13, if not just a little bit before, or, you know, started taking an interest in it. And it was really Blink-182. That was Blink pretty much changed my life. as soon as it was Blink, then, you know, my uncle was like, oh, you like this band, you should check out this band Nirvana. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I'm getting credible. You know, then I was going down the credible route, and I was listening to loads of sub pop bands, which I was like, no, just give me fast drums. And it was really pretty much going through every t-shirt that Blink-182 wore and working out what were clothing companies and what were bands.
Dude, and that is so, like, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's such a, you know, like, even in the internet's infancy, that was such a huge part of, like, what bands wear. And honestly, still in this day and age, like, you know, I mean, obviously it's like, that's why you wear, you know, a Sea Shepherd shirt when you play. Like, it is such a calling card that introduces people to stuff they might not have ever paid attention to.
That's it. I mean, it was, you know, they were wearing bands t-shirts, like, you know, like NoFX. Travis was always wearing like Rancid t-shirts. So it was like straight away I was like, oh, Rancid, these are like the guys that, you know, were starting this. And then it was, you know, Lagwagon, and you all of a sudden you get on this route of like all these like Southern California like punk bands, and you're like, why do I live in England? Why am I not in California? California is amazing. They have all these shows, you know. And so it was that really, and then it was kind of saving up to getting a drum kit, and then having my CD player set up next to my battered drum kit and trying to play along to songs, but playing along quietly enough so that the CD didn't skip. Because, you know, like, that's, you know, nowadays people have got it great. They're like, oh yeah, I do these YouTube covers where I put my MP3 on and it doesn't skip, or MP4, whatever it is. You know, their iPods, and it doesn't skip, and they can play along to it. It's like, yeah, the struggle is real when you've got your Discman on your floor tom and you're trying to learn these songs, but you don't want it to skip, you know.
Yeah, you're like, where's the balance? Where do I hit this?
Find the balance, you know. And then it was setting up the like your actual CD player behind you, and it never being loud enough. And oh man, and then it was a tough upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah, then your parents being like, please play a little bit quieter, it's so loud.
Yeah, please stop. It's like, okay, you wait for them to go to work, and you're like, right, I'm not gonna go to school today, and I'm gonna play drums all day.
And honestly, the drums are like the parents' worst nightmare. Like once their kid is like, I want to play drums, it's like, oh god, it's over.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sam. It's like, oh, and then as if I'm going to play drums all day and my neighbors aren't going to tell my parents. It's like, oh, just so you know, Sam was playing drums for 9 today.
Yeah, it's so good. I could just see you being like, dude, I totally got them. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Phone rings. Next door neighbor. I remember his name was Doug, and he always rattled me in. But he was a nice guy, but he did rattle me in a lot.
Yeah. He was like, I'm just watching out for you, Sam. That's all I'm doing.
It's the ears. He was worried about my ears. He didn't want me to get tinnitus.
And so did you, as you started to, you know, be misbehaving in, you know, high school and stuff like, I always sound stupid when I say this, but you guys call it high school, right?
We had secondary school. I think secondary school is high school.
Okay.
But if you liked Blink and other pop punk bands, you called it high school.
Oh, that was a thing. Like, you called it high school because you're like, dude, I'm cultured.
I'm not hanging out with the jocks, you know.
Sure. That's amazing. But you, so yeah, as you started to go through secondary/high school, did you, I presume, like, school and like a career path, like you said, that was not even, you weren't like, hey, you know, I know I want to be in a band. What can I do? What can I do otherwise?
For some reason, I don't know why, and it wasn't for lack of every single person around me trying. I just was not interested at all. I'd rather sit there for an hour making the teacher laugh than even slightly open a book. It was ridiculous. I think back and I'm like, how the hell have I ended up here? It's ridiculous. But I just wanted to play drums.
Right.
And I would make up like lies. I was in the school band, so I played with some of the teachers. And I'd go into lessons and be like, well, I'm sorry, I've got school band practice. Like, I have to go and rehearse. But like, yeah, your exams are coming up. I'm like, so's the end of school party. Right. You know? those drums aren't going to play themselves, you know?
Yeah. I have a crucial component. Like, it's not like you can, if you have two guitarists, you could maybe fudge and get by with one guitar, one show. Yeah. Not the drummer.
No. I really needed to go and try and learn more Blink songs.
Right.
It was important.
And so what was your actual first band that you like played a show with?
I was in a band. Called Stories for 9-Year-Olds.
Oh,
that's a long name, isn't it?
But I can't Stories for 9-year-old. I mean, I imagine it's pop punk, but
It was.
I don't know. That to me that sounds like a mid 90s emo band as well.
We were confused.
Okay.
We were coming at all kinds of angles.
Sure.
I mean, it was ridiculous, really. It was ridiculous, but so much fun. I still think back, and the guys that I was in a band with then, I'm still in contact with most of them, and it was just great.
Yeah.
Being in the practice space and rehearsing for hours and just knowing that we were awful but not caring.
Right.
Brilliant. But it was mainly pop punk, and then other influences started coming in, and then we sounded like God knows what. It was a mess.
Right. Well, I also think it's interesting, like being from the UK, you have so many things kind of coming at you because, the UK music scene is so vibrant in the sense of, you guys, I say you guys in general, kind of, tend to support your own in the sense of like, oh, like this is happening and like this is so cool. It's from the UK or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you had all of the, the influences from America and bands coming and touring over there. So it's like, I see why bands that start, especially at that age that you're talking about, are so just like, all right, we want to put some metalcore in here, but we got some of this and we got some of that. And it's like, it's just a mixture because you have so many inputs.
It was crazy. I tell you, Drive-Through Records. Remember Drive-Through Records?
Oh, of course I do.
Drive-Through Records was massive in my school. It was huge. Like people would walk around and like, there'd be more than 5 or 6 people in Drive-Through Records hoodies like every day.
Wow. Yeah.
It was crazy. It was like that era of pop punk was just so big in where I was from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very crazy.
Then basically as you started to, come to the end of secondary school, were you just being like, I mean, it sounds like you just wanted to structure your life. You're like, I don't care what job I have. I don't care as long as I'm able to play music. As long as I'm able to kind of do this, I don't care what I do.
That was pretty much it, and it was kind of like I would be in every band possible.
Okay.
I think before Architects asked me to join, I was playing drums in 5 bands.
You were that guy.
I was that guy. I was that drummer. So I was like every day I'd finish work and then I would go to band practice. And I would carry my cymbals on the train and I would get to practice and I would set up and then I would finish, go to bed, wake up, go to work again. It was busy time.
What were you doing for work?
I did minimal work really, but I worked in like a health food store.
Okay.
A little bit, and I worked in just some supermarkets and did like odds and ends really.
Yeah. Retail / food service. Yeah.
And I did work in a drum shop actually in Brighton for a long time when I was a kid. I did like work experience there, and then did like every Saturday there, and I would kind of, instead of taking money, I would sort of just take my wages in drumsticks and as much stuff as I could get away with, and then, break them throughout the week and then get new ones on Saturday.
Yeah, no, which is, I mean, that's the best currency possible. You're like,
sure.
money is fine, but dude, drumsticks, I'm in.
Drumsticks for half the price, I am in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel like any of those, 5 bands that you were playing in, when you got asked, obviously, well, because you didn't, I'm not even that clear on the introduction of you to Architects. Like, because I mean, obviously you sing in the band. Like, why did they even consider you trying out for vocals?
Well, I kind of knew Ali, like briefly, because we worked on the same street. But I was playing drums in like 4 bands, and they were all really fun. It was kind of like I knew that some were going to do better than others, but I was never really sure. This City, a band that I played for, ended up getting signed to Epitaph like years ago, just after I left. Nervous Wreck was like a hardcore band, and we did some cool tours with like Panic and Guns Up, and that was really fun. But it was never like enough to kind of make any sort of money to kind of live off just touring, really. And then there was another couple of bands which were just sort of, fun, playing around, kind of trying to figure stuff out, but never really got going. All the while, Stories for 9-year-olds was still going on, just in case.
Oh, dude.
Anyone was one.
You just had like 75 irons on the fire, just waiting.
I was just waiting.
Let them burn.
And then a couple of my other friends were in like we all started like a kind of, not super group, but, other groups of people that were in other bands came together to start at this post-hardcore-y sort of band, and it was sort of like hopeful rip-off. We were trying to do that sort of thing.
Okay.
And we ended up getting on a show supporting, being local support for Bring Me, Bring the
Okay.
Horizon. They played in Brighton, and we got like a first on for like £10 or whatever. That was our fee. And the guys from Architects were in the crowd. They came down. They knew one of the guys that was playing guitar for the band. And they came down, and I remember like them coming in afterwards and saying, how good it was and that they really enjoyed it. I think that was the last time I ever got paid a compliment by any of them. They came in and said that they really enjoyed it. And then I think it was that night or the next day, Matt, their singer, quit. He like left the band, and then like a day after, they had like a meeting, I guess. And then Ali came to my work because we worked on the same street and was like, "Oh, Matt's quit the band. We were wondering whether you'd like to try out." And I was like, "Dude, there is no way I can play drums like your drummer. It's not going to happen." And Ali was like, "Yo, Dan plays drums. Matt's the singer." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. No worries, let's do it." And then it was like, I was like, "Let's try out." And we did a couple of practices, and I was a bit cocky, but I think you kind of needed to be to try out like a band like that. They toured with, they'd done a couple of European tours, and to me that was it. I was like, well, they toured with the Chariot and they toured with Beecher, and I was like, I want to do those tours. I want to live in a van. I want to live in a suitcase, and and then they asked me to join, and I had to make 5 very hard phone calls to all my friends being like, yo, I can't do this band anymore. I'm really sorry. I'm joining Architects, and the rest is history.
Right. That's so funny. I have a feeling that they basically, since, Ali knew you, I think it's always, and knowing your personality, I think it's one of those things that like, hey, Sam's loud. So how about we ask him to sing? Like I could almost see that conversation happening just because it is like, you don't like.
I completely misjudged. I just completely missed something out. The band that I'd started, the Hopesful band, I was singing.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Singing that band. Sorry, complete brain fart then. But yeah, I started out singing in it because they already had a drummer, and I was like, hey, I want to be in this band.
Okay.
And they were like, why don't you try singing? Because I did do some singing in the other bands that I had been in, like Stories. Me and the guitarist sang, so I was kind of like a Phil Collins guy at the back. But this was the first time being like a real frontman.
Got it. Okay, cool. I thought that they were just being like, well, he's loud, so I think
he's fucking standing on his drum kit, so he must be right,
No, that's spectacular. So you really did feel that. Did the Architects guys be like, okay, you need to take this seriously and quit your other bands, or did you have to like wrestle around with that decision on your own before you called those?
I think it was kind of like I knew they had like a big headline tour coming up.
Got it.
And they wanted me to come out and do the last song with their singer, so that like the crowd kind of knew that I was the new frontman, and it was all done in a very friendly way. It wasn't like he's left, now there's a new singer. Mm-hmm. So I knew kind of after that and just before that tour that they were going to be pretty busy, and it was kind of like, all right, we're all going to leave our jobs and we're going to make a full go of this. Yeah, it was. I kind of knew then. It was like, okay, I'm going to be living in a van.
This is my choice.
Yeah, and it was hard, but it was kind of like, well, it was the only one that, without any offense to anyone that I was in other bands with, it was the only one where I really kind of felt like everyone had the same idea. Everyone wanted the same end result. It wasn't like, well, I kind of want to make money. It was like everyone was like, let's tour, let's play music, and let's travel, and let's just have fun. And as soon as I met the guys, I was like, right, this is it. This is the one.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna do it.
I mean, each band member is going to fill different roles, from like either the business guy or the guy that knows how to fix stuff on stage, like whatever. But to have people like kind of keyed into the same vision, like that, to me, that's the most difficult part in keeping a band together, is just that vision. For sure.
And I think it was immediate. Like as soon as I knew we had tours, I was like, I quit my job. I remember printing off a laminate, like a tour poster, and taking it to my work, and it was like 7 weeks of touring. And I was like, can I have this time off? And they were like, absolutely no way. I was like, well, see you later. I'm doing this. And my mum being like, what are you doing? And
Dude, I love how you like it's just it's so you to be like, yeah, I'm gonna bring in a visual illustration.
Yeah, this is real. There's artwork for this tour. I'm not making it up.
just to kind of like make this point more grandiose of me quitting this job. It's so good.
This is my band. We have artwork.
So good. So did you, when you started to kind of shift into this touring lifestyle, like were your parents the whole time just being like, we're here to catch you when you fall because it's going to happen?
I think it was I think they tried the best they could, to kind of get me to live this normal life that people were supposed to lead, and it just sort of continued on from school. I didn't have any grades, and I just left this job and was going on tour. I mean, it's a bit of a risk, They were, you know, as much as I did battle against them, they were incredibly supportive, as were all of our families during that time, and as they are now. But you know, there was always a roof over my head when I'd get back from tour, and you know, it was always, you know, I remember, you know, the first time we toured America, we were living on like $5 a day to like get dinner, and you know, it was harsh. You know, I mean, you were with us at that time at Century Media, and you know, we were having McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the dollar menu. And I remember we were losing so much money, and you know, I remember calling my dad and being like, you know, I never do this, but please, if you have any money, please can you send me the slightest bit so I can just upgrade to the deluxe menu, because I can't stand the dollar menu. No, but you know, they were so supportive, and I think at the time I didn't really realize how much it cost to put a roof over a 20-year-old's 18-year-old at the time, 18-year-old's head, you know, pay for a 4-bedroom house or whatever it was, and then have someone not there, and then swan in like he owned the place when he got back, you know.
It's so cool to hear you say that, because it's like, I think that sometimes that gets lost in the hecticness of being in a band. Like when you actually are confronted with the reality of like, oh dude, like I should be grateful for the people that kind of supported this.
I think it, you know, there are times when you realize, you know, like, remember the first time my mum and dad came to see us, you know, after it had all really started doing well, and we played a London show, and I think there was like 1,000 or so people there, and they came and stood at the side of the stage, and I think after that they were like, oh, okay, right, you're not just talking out of your arse and blowing things up. It was like, this is actually something real now, you know. Like, it was a big moment for us because, you know, all of our family were there and saw us play at the Electric Ballroom to all these people, and it was like, yeah, this isn't just us supporting someone now. This is our pull in London. You know, this many people have come to see us. And yeah, I'll never forget just turning around and seeing my dad taking pictures on his phone, and, you know, seeing my mum there smiling, and everyone's family was there. You know, it was a big day. And that was the kind of day where it was like, you know what? Thank you so much for supporting us. You know, you're the fucking best, you know.
Dude, those moments of just like, I mean, it doesn't even have to be obviously as grand as what you experienced, but it's like just those moments of being able to reflect on that and being like, that feels good. Like, it's so cool that you had the ability to, you know, be able to actually step back and witness that.
I still think, you know, I mean, still to like the last London show we played, they were there, all our family up in the balcony playing, you know, this ridiculous venue in London, and you know, I look up, and my dad loves the end of Follow the Water. So like before the end of Follow the Water, I just pointed off my dad. I was like, "This is for you." And then as soon as like I saw him there, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, you know, you just overcome with these emotions, and I'm like, I can't even sing. I'm just crying. Like I'm on stage, like crying, you know. And I don't think there was a member of our band during our last London show that wasn't on stage, just, you know, secretly crying or like hiding some kind of emotion. You know, it's not. It's you know, we're very. I hate to say it, not grounded, because there's nothing to not be grounded from. We're just normal people. But
yeah, those emotions are very they're overwhelming, because you don't. It's impossible to put it in your head where it makes sense, and it's just like this. You're experiencing so many things. So yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. And it's so, yeah, it's just incredible, like you said, that you're able to like actually comprehend that. Because usually, you know, as you well know, on stage it's just a blur. It's like nothing.
Yeah, I think without, you know, I try not to be negative at all, or, you know, try as hard as I can. It's difficult. But I think some bands that have these derogatory lyrics and have these derogatory purposes and, you know, sing about just the worst stuff, you know, have these horrible meanings, horrible T-shirts. Like, I feel sorry for those bands, because surely their parents are never going to be there to kind of, you know, be like, "Oh, I'm really proud of you. You have an amazing message." They're like, "Yeah, wow, you've just made 1,000 people shout something disgusting." You know? So I think with Architects, it is very kind of family. Well, we're a family. We're sensible. You know, we're not doing this for money. We're doing it for the right reasons, you know.
And you hit on a point that I was going to bring up a little bit later. Like, you know, as Architects started to, you know, to take the long journey up, and more people started to pay attention to you, you know, primarily in the UK to begin with, the UK music scene is so, and more so the press, like, you know, you yourself have obviously got in quote unquote trouble many times because, you know, you're not speaking through a filter. Like you're willing to call out other band members, and you've obviously severed relationships with people based on something that either gets misconstrued or you are saying what's truthful in your own opinion. Yes. As you started to kind of navigate that, was it shocking for you to all of a sudden have this stuff kind of fall on your lap in regards to, you know, either negative attention or negative stuff, just because it is so heightened in the UK.
I just don't think I realized how much people were taking on board like what we were saying. I think I was just saying these things just like I would be saying them to a friend. I was just we were really like bitchy people. We were kind of we thought we had the right reasons for doing this. We were doing this for the right,
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of, we grew up on bands like Every Time I Die and Dillinger Escape Plan and Botch and Taken. And,
Right.
We kind of grew up with these bands that were like we are now, that kind of weren't derogative to women, weren't like saying just horrible things, weren't like, we were just like disgusted by music that was coming out just to make money. And we knew it, we could see it, but we almost felt like no one else could see it when really everybody else could probably see it as well.
Right.
But we'd be like, well, that band's shit. And we would just, you'd not think that there was 5 people with real feelings. We'd be like, well, they're just fucking shit. They're shit. Oh, great. They're playing to 2,000 people, but they're fucking shit. And I don't ever want to hear them. They're disgusting.
Right.
And then magazines would be like, Architects, negative Nancy's saying this week. Tune in next week for who they're going to slag off now. It was like, and that was it. We were too focused with like what everyone else was doing rather than just enjoying and appreciating what we had. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how much people were going to think we were horrible, because then every time people would meet us, they'd be like, you guys are really normal, like you're just quite funny. It's like, yeah. And I guess when you read in a magazine, like if I were to be like, oh, that band's a bunch of pricks, if I said that now, it sounds quite funny. But then in like a magazine where it's like, Sam Carter says this band is a bunch of pricks, it's like, it just comes across as a bit more aggressive,
Yeah, it's taken, it's not taken out of context. It just has no voice behind it. It has no, exactly. Yeah, it has no personality. So
yeah,
it is interesting, especially just because, like you were saying, it's like you're at such a young age and you're so passionate about, like you said, what your message is and what you're trying to get across, and you feel like, yeah, you're just in there's this pink elephant in the room and you're like, no one's talking about this.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. But I still think now, I think we've kind of come up against it as well. We come up against it every now and then, not so much now as when we first started, but we're obviously all recently vegan. Well, I say recently, like nearly 3 years now.
Right.
And we're very vocal about like our political views and, our animal rights stuff. And, some people would just shut up and be in a band. We get that a lot. People are like, I'd rather you didn't talk about this stuff and you kind of, just got on with being in a band. It's like, well, come on, man. Like, there's only so many times you can write a song about a girl breaking your heart. It's like, there's these important things going on in the world, and we have a small platform to talk about it and to influence people. Like, we were influenced by bands, when we were growing up, and, Blink-182 made me check out loads of other bands. Like you say, like the T-shirts were so influential. So it's like, well, nowadays we have a wealth of social networks to go to say like, hey, we've gone vegan, it's changed our lives. Or, hey, I really think you should support Sea Shepherd. Or, Peter are doing these amazing things this week. Like, please check it out. And so many people are still, well, not as much as they used to be, but are so offended by that. They're so offended by you having a voice. But yeah. I think we worked out how to use it properly instead of just slagging people off for no reason. Right. I think people were quite shocked that we went from slagging people off to being like, hey, don't eat that. Right.
Well, yeah. It is disarming to people who aren't, if a person doesn't pay close attention to, Architects and what you guys are doing, it's definitely, it would be weird for them to pop in a year later and be like, oh, like what's this kind of sea change in the way that, the band is and the way that the band, conducts themselves to the public eye or whatever. It is a shame that, people feel the need to obviously, like you guys were doing, like be negative, but be overtly negative and have like nothing to really say beyond the fact that they just don't agree with you.
I think a lot of people that feel like that as well, that are like, hey, you changed, you never used to sing about this stuff, you never used to talk about this stuff. It's like, well, come on, dude, I'm 25 now. It's like, I've grown up being in this band. Like, people's opinions change. It's like, mine have recorded and put on songs, but if I had my way, I'd go back and sing about the things that I care about now on the other records. It's just we just kind of grew up not in the public eye, but we grew up being recorded and having people interview us and stuff. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but
there is a living, breathing document of where you are as a person, and it in our own heads when we're creating this art, it's a time capsule. It means the world to us at that particular moment, and obviously, hopefully, moving on after that. But then to be held to the same thing that you said, 10 years ago. It's like, dude, really? Like,
Yeah.
of course that lyric was terrible. I'm sorry.
It's like, yo, dude, go back to your phone that you had 10 years ago, and you'll probably be a different person to the person you were 10 years ago.
Totally.
Just my scribblings are on a bloody record.
Yeah, no, exactly. Something else I wanted to talk about in regards to the, transparency of kind of the band in general was the, I couldn't love the documentary more than you guys did, the 100 Days documentary, which
Thank you.
Because it was so great, because obviously it highlighted, like you were talking about, your guys' positivity and gratefulness in which you were to be in these ridiculous locations and, the hecticness of world touring. But then it also highlighted the fragility of being in a band from an individual basis, of you guys being, like you were alluding to earlier, of just like, you were, drinking a ton of alcohol and you weren't, happy at that moment. I guess what I'm trying to ask is the idea of like showcasing how fragile a band can be. Like, was that difficult for you guys to like get in the mentality to do that? Or was it kind of like, no, this is just who we are. It's just kind of coming out on film.
You know what? I think it was actually like incredibly natural, because we just come off the back of the Here and Now, and we just released Daybreaker. And Daybreaker was the kind of record where we kind of got back to being like an aggressive band. We knew what we wanted to do, and we wrote a record that we really enjoyed, And then after that, we had this world tour booked, and we'd done a documentary where we did an arena tour with Rise Against, and our friend Tom Williams, Get Deluxe, that filmed that, came out on tour with us to film the Rise Against shows, and he did an amazing job, and kind of highlighted how fortunate we were to be on the shows and how well we've been treated and how much we loved it. And I remember saying, like, we're going to these crazy places. I remember being in Dan's car, and it was me, Tom, and Dan driving up somewhere. I remember saying, like, we have to get him to come out and film these shows, because imagine how amazing it would be filming 300 kids going off, but in a cinematic way that he'd done everything else. So yeah, we got it sorted, and we managed to get him on board for it. But we kind of went into that tour kind of expecting it to be like, maybe 4 or 5 good shows and the rest to be a train wreck. And we were like, we'd said to each other, like, we want to show, I'm saying like so much. We said to each other, we have to document the bad shows as well as the good shows. Like, we don't want to hide away from the fact that some of the shows are a bit smaller. We don't want to hide away from the fact that some people might not turn up to these shows. We wanted to really document it the way it should be, not like some other DVDs that bands produce where they just show crazy shows. They show the craziest footage. We wanted to show it being completely natural and completely honest. And that was what we set out to do from the start. And that was the amazing journey of it, was we were so shocked by the shows. So many shows were so much fun. So many shows, like, I can think now on one hand, shows that were bad. I, at the start of that tour, would have said that I could count the shows on my hand that would be good. Right. And that was it. It was just so overwhelming. It was so crazy to be in Kuala Lumpur playing one of the best shows of my life. And on all of our lives, it was just such an amazing journey. And it really did capture how much we loved being in a band, because we thought it was over. After the Here and Now, we thought it was done. We thought people would have lost interest in us, and we really did think that it was over. And we got given the second chance, and it was filmed. Us realizing that we had the second chance to really give it another go. Yeah. It was just really honest. It was amazing. It was a realization for all of us, and especially after seeing the film at the end, it was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, Tom did such an amazing job. Tom Welsh that filmed it did such an incredible job. The injection in the arm that it shows to the band of the health of the band, it's like you said, it's evident on tape. But the, since you were talking about it earlier, the idea of that record cycle, that you basically were just, you were completely beat up as a band. Where were you, like, your headspace, like you said, when you felt like you were drinking too much, and you felt like you were just kind of at the end of your rope, was that a full-fledged depression you felt like, and kind of what did you feel like was putting you there? Was it the direct correlation of like, oh man, I don't feel like the band's getting anywhere? Like, what was your mental headspace like during that? I think it was from going from releasing Hollow Crown and we were like a band's band when we released Hollow Crown. It was every band we toured with. I'm not trying to sound arrogant by any means, but every band we would tour with would be like, your band's amazing, your album's amazing, play this song. And it was such a buzz around us. It was so exciting and so fresh at that point in time. And you know, we were young and it was so exciting. And then we toured with all these bands that we looked up to, and they liked us. And then we did the Here and Now, and it was kind of like every show, every band that you play with, you'd kind of have to explain why you did the Here and Now. You'd have to like kind of try and convince yourself that it was the right idea. And then you see all the magazines like starting to slag it a little bit, and then your fans are saying that it's awful, and then you're like, oh, we have made a really bad decision, but we've just released this and we've got to tour it for the next year. So it was like, just, well, we've just got to get through this, really. Ali unfortunately left the band at that time as well, so it was kind of strange for just having us guys without him. And just sort of fell into this sort of lazy spiral of just, well, I'll just drink to get through it. And then we just all kind of got really lazy. But when we started hearing what Tom was writing for Daybreaker, that's when it started getting exciting again. Ali rejoining, us writing a harder and more aggressive record, that kind of pulled us out. But yeah, it was just a real lull for the band. I was sick of, I didn't read anything that anyone had to say about our band anymore. I didn't go on our Twitter, I didn't go on our Facebook, I didn't go on I think we had MySpace at the time, didn't go on any of that, because it was just, people were just slagged it off. Like, and they didn't hold back. And it's like, even if you don't like the record, we still put a year of our lives into writing, maybe more than that, of writing that record. We took a big step to go to America, and it was a big, brave move by us to write such a bold record for our like third release.
Yeah.
But it fell on its head, and I don't think we believed in it either. And I think that was it. It was, we were trying to sell something that, not even sell it, trying to tour something that we didn't really know whether we liked. You know, we were playing Numbers Count for Nothing, like a song with blast beats at the start of it, which was really heavy, and then we play Heartburn next to it, and it was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We're confusing ourselves. How's a crowd supposed to get behind it?
Right. No, I mean, it's so interesting, the approach, like to have the perspective like you do on a piece of art that you create. It's so hard. Like I totally, you know, I do that often myself, where it's like I look at, you know, because obviously I played in that band Makoto after Taken, and the approach.
I love that record, by the way. I really love that record.
Well, and it's funny because I look at we tried so much harder to kind of quote unquote make it a thing with that band than obviously Taken ever did. So I look back on the times of Makoto, and it probably in the same way that you look at that record that you're talking about, where it's like you feel like it was fun, and it wasn't fun, but it was an enjoyable experience, and you learned something from it, but you didn't feel like, I guess, your whole heart was in it, because you felt like maybe you were trying to do the you know, what was expected of you and what was happening musically at the time, you know, rather than, like you said, staying true to kind of the vision that you guys already had sort of set out.
I completely agree, and but I wouldn't change anything. You know, I wouldn't go back and change anything, because I think it was perfect. Because without that record, we wouldn't have gone and done the heavy record like Daybreaker. And I really do believe that we did that record, you know, not intentionally, but it really gave us longevity to be able to still be doing this now. I truly believe that, because we kind of redefined ourselves. And I don't think many bands can, you know, kind of go through that drastic change and then come out the other side and still be swinging, being like, no, you're going to give us another chance. You're going to give us another chance. And if you don't, we're going to get in your face. And we toured Daybreaker like you wouldn't, you know, people probably wouldn't believe it if they saw all the dates we did on paper. I wish we had them. Yeah. But, you know, 100 Days was just a part of that run. But, you know, it really did give us a kick up the arse releasing Daybreaker after the Here and Now. And, you know, we stepped up our live show, and then, you know, bands that we were touring with started saying, you know, I really love your new record. And that sort of familiarity of Hollow Crown came back, and it was just, I wouldn't change anything. It was a stressful, sad time, but when Daybreaker came back and we got Ali back and we worked as hard as we possibly could, and then started getting people backing us again. Yeah, it was an amazing feeling.
Well, yeah, it's the, you know, proverbial rebirth. It gives you that renewed life of like this band was kind of at the brink of for lack of a better term, death, but it was able to be pulled back by, you know, focusing on what we believed in to begin with, which is, you know, it's hard to do that.
For sure.
The last thing I want to hit on was the, you know, knowing you and knowing like everything that we were just talking about in regards to, you know, you're like, well, I've never had any vision of anything but playing in a band. So like, does the idea of not playing in a band like terrify you? Does the idea of like being Sam Carter, like Sam from Architects, like that identifier kind of falling away? Like how does that sit in your head, or is that something that you honestly just kind of suppress and push down?
I really don't want the band to end. Like I would. The thought of it ending is horrible. And
Sure.
I love the guys and I love touring. But I think when it does, I think, I'm excited for like the next project. But I don't see myself as I don't really have an ego. I don't consider myself as like Sam Carter or as being an architect. So I think I really would love to get involved with more animal rights stuff. I would love to be a full-fledged member of Sea Shepherd and go out on the boats. I would love to go and put signs above SeaWorld that say SeaWorld sucks.
Right.
I would love to do, there's so many things that I want to do, literally just things like that. I would love to be more involved with animal rights. Sam Simon is a hero of mine. Sam Simon and Paul Watson are two people that like I aspire to be like, and
right.
So I'm not scared of the end, but I don't want it to ever come. But when it comes, I'm kind of going to be like, right, okay, well, I'm still going to go on tour. I'm just going to go on tour with animals.
Yeah. Well, no, honestly, it's so, I love to hear that because it's like when you watch your friends, and I mean, just as many people as I do that are in bands that, really have got nothing to kind of hang their hat on besides the fact that, they can play their instrument proficiently.
Yeah.
And you always have that fear in the back of your head where it's like, dude, when this, because we don't have any historical context to prove that a band is going to exist in the hardcore metal world for 40 years.
Yeah.
But, I can probably predict that that's not going to happen. So you're going to have something else before, the end of your proverbial, career life is concerned.
Yeah.
And so, you just look at those people and it's kind of scary. But I mean, it's awesome to hear that, the reinvigorated passion or the newly introduced passion of animal rights is obviously like keyed you into that. So you have that vision of like, well, that's something I want to explore. I just don't have the time to right now.
Exactly. Yeah. It is terrifying. I mean, being an architect is all I know. It's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
From, kind of growing up, and it's all we all know, the thought of this band being done is I'm sure as terrifying to me as it is to everyone in this band. And,
yeah.
We had a talk the other day where me and Tom and Dan were sitting around and we were like, we could still be doing this in 10 years, we release another few records. And if people still like the music, I can't see us stopping. We're not one of those bands we're not writing records for money because we don't have any. We never have.
Yeah.
So, we're writing music because we love touring and we love going on tour and seeing people love our band. And if people still like us, we're going to keep touring. As soon as people lose interest in us and they don't want us to tour anymore, then we'll stop. And then, we can all go our different ways. But, I think it's nice to have like a burning passion in you. Mm-hmm. I think people should have a passion or something that they really care about and that they really want to do, whether it be like cooking or whether it be running or, whatever, as long as you have something that you really care about. And I think more and more people are getting involved in animal rights and more people are getting involved in politics and things that they think they can change. And I think making a difference is something that just really appealed to me. It really has really grabbed me now. And it's kind of like, well, it's all very well and good wearing a T-shirt and saying how much I support these organizations and these charities and saying how much I wish I could stop these things. But it's another thing actually going out there and doing it. And I think that's the next phase of my life will be actually kind of not just sitting there and saying stuff, actually going out there and actually feeling like I'm doing something to actually make a difference.
Yeah.
So I feel like it'd be very satisfying, almost as satisfying as, being in a band. I'd still get the same rush, I think.
No, I agree wholeheartly. And because you identified a passion, and that's something that some people go through their whole lives and don't even have an inkling of it. They may have a hobby, like that word hobby always like because hobby sounds like something you just like actively like, oh, I need to find a hobby. It's like what like that's
I've got to do something with my life. It's like, well done.
Right.
It's like it's taken you 30 years to realize that.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you hanging out, Sam. You are you're a scholar and a gentleman, and I am very glad that we were able to make this happen.
Ray, it is always a pleasure to speak to you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
All right, there was Sam. I could not thank him enough for that. It was super fun to be able to just hang out and shoot the shit, as they say. So thank you very much. Visit 100wordspodcast.com. Visit propertyofzach.com. The producer, as always and forever, he has chained himself to me through the rest of this life together, Tom Richfield. And until next week, I don't know, I'm not even going to tease next week because sign up for the email newsletter. Then you'll be able to find out who next week's guest is. So until next week, be safe, everybody.